Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today into today's session. We know it's Friday. For some of you it's evening. For some of us, it's morning. But we are really happy that you can join us into this event on the final day of gLOCAL. How can evaluation change the world? We have a little small survey joining us for in the chat, but you can also use the chat to introduce yourselves, where we're joining us from. We see in the survey that we have a very nice mix of young and emerging evaluators and some more seasoned evaluators or young evaluators from the heart. And we want to thank you and welcome you to this session. It's how can evaluation change the world? And in particular, we like to explore different perspectives of how can young and emerging evaluators join the field? What is their opportunities? And we would like to see this as an opportunity to really share experiences. And in evaluation, we normally tend to say evaluators come from different perspectives, many different paths. There's no one straight path to evaluation. And we want to explore that today, not only for the sake of the event, but also to inspire people and maybe to share experiences intergenerationally. We aim not only to inspire the next generation of evaluators, but also to encourage more seasoned evaluators to come together with young and emerging evaluators, and in this era that we call evaluation for transformation. My name is Gabriela Rentería. I'm the chair of EvalYouth Global Network, and I'm really happy to be moderating this webinar today with my colleague, Anna. Anna, do you want to introduce yourself? Anna.
Okay, now I'm able to talk. Thank you, Gabi, to this introduction. I'm very happy to be at this event together with you. We are impressive 57 people coming together to talk about transformative power of evaluation and how to engage young and emerging evaluators. So I'm really happy. Yes, my name is Anna Warnholz. I am from the German Institute of Development Evaluation. I am ECD advisor and also part of the Global Evaluation Initiative, working together or on the working line with young and emerging evaluators and youth support. So yes, as I said, I'm very happy. As you might have seen, we have some personal changes. So Laura Gonzalez won't be able to join us, but we are very happy to have Claudia Olavarría here with us today. And we are very excited about that, and also very happy to have all of this esteemed colleagues and exciting panelists here together with us. So we are very happy to have Jane Davidson here. She is internationally recognized evaluation specialist and the founder of the Footprint Evaluation Initiative and Real Evaluation. As I already teased, we have Claudia Olavarría here. She is the part of the GEI Global Evaluation Team, Senior Evaluation Consultants, and also leading the training of young and emerging evaluators in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we are happy to have Walaa Ayasrah here. She is the chairperson of Development Evaluation Association in Jordan and Program Quality and Research Senior Manager at Jordan River Foundation. So today we are going to have a panel discussion, as I mentioned, on the transformative power of evaluations and the potential of young emerging evaluators in this. And afterwards, we are having a little question and answer session where we would like to invite you to also share your questions with our colleagues. So thank you. With this, I would like to hand over to you, Gabi. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. And before we start, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands we all are. We are in all the world, so we would like to pay our respects to the elder past, present, and emerging of the lands in which we are all meeting, which is the world now. And we'd like to extend also respect to any Indigenous people joining us today from around the world. Thank you. And I think it's time to start this conversation. If you want to turn on your camera, it would be great to see your faces. Where are you joining? Please put it in the chat. And first of all, I would like to welcome Walaa, Claudia, and Jane. And we have a couple of kick-off questions, but please just consider this as this safe space where we can all discuss, and we want to be sharing our experiences from our perspectives. So if you have any questions in the audience, please just put it in the chat. And yeah, we'd like to have this webinar more as a open conversation. But first I would like to start. I hope we are all passionate about evaluation. And I would like to ask Walaa, what was your journey into the field of evaluation? Walaa, how did you start? Can you share a little bit about your experience in that?
Of course. Hello, everyone. First of all, Yani, thank you all for being here, and thank you for the invitation. I also want to thank the World Bank, the Global Evaluation Initiative, EvalYouth, and the German Institute for Development Evaluation for this event. On the power of evaluation and the power of young and emerging evaluators, I think it's very important for all of us to be part of here. So for me, actually, I started my journey in the field of evaluation here in Jordan at the beginning of the Syrian crisis. I started with the Norwegian Refugee Council, then I moved to the Danish Refugee Council, and now I'm the Program Quality and Research Senior Manager at Jordan River Foundation, which is an NGO chaired by Her Majesty Queen Rani of Jordan. And at the same time, I'm the chairperson of the Development Evaluation Association in Jordan, EvalJordan. Actually, during my work in the field of evaluation and across these different organizations, we've conducted different types of evaluations: formative evaluations, summative evaluations, process evaluations, impact evaluations. And these evaluations were done in different fields and for different types of programs, including livelihood and community empowerment, protection, and social enterprises. Actually, personally, I'm so passionate about evaluation, and coming from a region like the Middle East, where we've witnessed different crises, started from the Iraqi to the Syrian to the Yemeni to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which caused actually deterioration of people's lives. And we are in need for impactful intervention and impactful programs to be implemented here in the region. And here comes the power of evaluation to evaluate the effectiveness of the different programs that have been implemented here in the region.
Thank you for sharing that, Walaa. And actually, I think it's quite important what you just mentioned, like the power of like the impact, what we want to measure, and especially in different circumstances. Now I would like to ask Jane, can you share with us what actually got you into evaluation? How did you get in?
So, I came into evaluation like before there was really any such thing as like a degree in evaluation. So, like now there's just so many options. You're like, oh, great, I can go get a qualification. But really there was no such thing. The most you could find would be a few courses in a graduate program or a co-concentration. When I look back in hindsight, I actually was in evaluation before I even knew that it was a thing. I had in my 20s, I ended up in a job that was training and development and quality assurance, and I was running quality circles and within a government agency, and we were figuring out like what was working well and what wasn't working well with the systems and how to improve them. And so then I ended up coming to the States. I'm originally from Aotearoa, New Zealand, so this is a shout out to people who are situated in a country where they feel like they're a long way from the center of the universe. I mean, New Zealand is a long way. And, you kind of wonder, like, how can I even get an in into anything, right? So I ended up coming to the States to come and do a graduate degree in organizational psychology or organizational behavior at Claremont Graduate University. And when I was there, I stumbled across a couple of courses in evaluation. And my area of expertise, or my kind of major, what I was focusing on was organizational change and whole systems change. And so I thought, well, if you're trying to change organizations or change systems, why wouldn't you want to know if that was working? So it just seemed like a really natural match. And then the second year in the program, this guy called Michael Scriven walked in the door, and I thought, oh, isn't that guy who wrote some stuff back in the 60s? We learned about him at some point. So I didn't realize that he was still like majorly prolific in terms of his writing and thinking. I was done with my coursework, so I said, do you mind if I sit in and listen to your classes? And he said, sure, knock yourself out. So I ended up then being his teaching assistant for a couple of years, which one of the best ways to understand that guy is to try and teach it to terrified 22-year-old straight out of undergrad students going, oh my God, what is going on? Because, you know, he was using this Oxford University style Socratic method, and, you know, it was just like, I mean, I was kind of mind blown. So you know, it was, and I was coming into the graduate program at about the age of 30. So, you know, if you were younger and you didn't have any experience, I mean, he was kind of a shock to the system. So I ended up doing that with him, and I became more and more interested in evaluation and went to the American Evaluation Association conference and thought, what a great bunch of people. And I just loved the interdisciplinarity of it. Like, I never really wanted to pick one discipline and just be in that box. And so I just loved that in evaluation, you could do anything. So I've had so much fun in it ever since. I mean, I spent some time on the faculty at Western Michigan University, launched the world's first fully interdisciplinary PhD in evaluation there. Since then, I went back to New Zealand and spent about 11 years there in private practice, working mostly for central government. Now I'm back in Seattle in the States and working internationally with, ironically, a bunch of clients usually in Europe and all over the world rather than the US, but it's an easier time zone to do that from. So yeah, like, I don't know, there's lots of possibilities here. I'm really excited about it.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for sharing that. And especially, I like the importance you made. Like, it doesn't really matter where you are. You can always do it, right? Like, you can come, and I guess we are here from many different parts of the world, joining us in the evening, in the morning. So it's really important that young and emerging evaluators or people who's interested in evaluation really see that perspective and that like opportunities coming up everywhere, not like only in the traditional places or so. And also, I really like what you said about just daring to do that things, just asking. Sometimes just asking is such an important thing. Like, can I be there? People will welcome you and say, yeah, sure, join us. And I think that's such important, such like, I don't know, like welcoming space in evaluation. And now I'd like to hear from Claudia. Claudia, how has your journey been?
Thank you, Gabby. I couldn't relate more with what Jane said and also what Walaa was sharing. I got out of university and I studied sociology. I'm a sociologist, and many years after I did my master's degree in gender and public policy. In Latin America, we do not have programs that could certify you as an evaluator. So we're evaluators by practice, unless a group of people that have been trained in the global north. I'm also very far from where things are happening, just as Jane shared, 15-hour flight to get everywhere, 20 meeting, conference, etc. So it was something to see how things are happening in the rest of the world. When I got out of university, I had a mentor there, Andrea Peroni, and she taught us how evaluation went. And I identified myself as a researcher. I was an independent consultant then, and I am still an independent consultant 15 years after. I have like closer relationships with some organizations, but still I always try to keep that independency a part of my own practice. And this is very fun, but we can discuss about it more after, because it's fun, but it's unstable. So it's got its challenges and you need to think carefully about it, whether to follow that path or not. I'm not making any recommendations. But as I was telling you, I started as a researcher. then I identified myself as an evaluative researcher. Then I thought, you know, I might be an evaluator. And now I identify myself as an evaluation facilitator. So all this path has happened just in my head because the job that I've been doing is almost the same, like providing evidence for decision making. But it's been quite a fun journey, and I would love to explore more with you and the panel, and of course our audience today.
Thank you, Claudia. And thank you all for sharing in the chat. What is your journey in evaluation? We see someone studying in Saarland University. That master is really great. And yeah, we see someone like Isabella sharing that her background is in criminal justice, social work, which is like, you know, we can see in the chat already, like many different perspectives, many different backgrounds. I love that from evaluation. Whenever I go to a conference or whenever I meet people, and I always ask them, yeah, what is your journey? And we can find like criminal justice and social work, like economists, sociologists, biologists, who knows, like evaluation is such a welcoming field, like coming from different perspectives. And now that you've shared with us, what is your journey in evaluation, Ben? I'd like to ask, and this also goes to the audience, actually, like, why are you in evaluation? Like, what is your passion in evaluation? What do you think is the value of evaluation to transform the world that we are living in? Like, we see many crises around the world and many things happening, but what do you think is the value of evaluation for that transformational change we see? I don't know, like maybe now I'm gonna change the order. Jane, do you want to share with us what is the value of evaluation for you?
Sure. And I mean, maybe, I guess I've spent my whole career on thinking through like and developing methodologies to make the really important stuff measurable instead of chasing indicators and then wondering why we don't have a whole lot of insights from them. So a lot of the most important things that we try to change are quite often very intangible. You know, we might be just trying to change whole systems or cultures or norms, practices, ways of doing things that exist, whether in organizations or in societies that may be harmful to some populations. And so trying to change those things. And you can't just throw a bunch of indicators at it. So that's kind of one mix. But the other sort of way to think about it is in the last couple of years, I've had a lot of involvement of being one of the founders of Footprint Evaluation, which Alice has also been involved with. So this started off with a conversation in 2019 with Andy Rowe and Patricia Rogers and Dugan Fraser from GEI, where we sort of said, like, you know, listen, there are really two big crises facing the entire planet right now. One is global inequality and all the inequities that cause that. And the other one is climate and environmental breakdown. So, you know, we're like, evaluation needs to respond to both of these crises in absolutely everything that we do. And the thing that was a real light bulb moment for me was that we need to do that, especially with the initiatives that have got no explicit equity or environmental objectives. Because can you imagine like evaluating a policy or a program that says nothing about equity in terms of what it's trying to do? That doesn't matter. You still bring equity into the evaluation because all initiatives must be equitable and to try and address that massive imbalance that we have in our societies. And so the same thing is true for environmental sustainability, like our very survival depends on that. And the programs and the policies that are doing the most harm are the ones that haven't given a single thought to environment. And so it doesn't matter if it wasn't on their agenda, it's our responsibility to bring it to them, because one thing we know now is that these environmental catastrophes are getting so huge right now and so obvious in every single part of the world. And like, if you're in the global south, it's been in your face for a long time. The global north has been very insulated from it, but it's, you know, like fancy homes in Florida are getting blasted with hurricanes. I mean, this is real. And what's going to happen is that within the next couple of years, and if it is not happening already, every single decision maker in every single policy and programming area is going to be asked, and what the heck are you doing about this disaster in your domain? Because you are responsible for results. We're there to help them have good answers to those questions. So this is a massive opportunity. I know that young and emerging evaluators care about this probably a lot more than the boomers do, because the boomers have been busy making a mess. I should add, I snuck into Gen X, so I'm not quite a boomer, but like, I still, you know, they've been slacking, and evaluators are going to have to try and pick that up, and we've got a big role to play.
Thank you, Jane. And that's so interesting because actually we see in the audience some people like Linda who shared, she's working also on climate resilient space. So we see like all of these new topics about climate change, resilient, and all of this is like not only in the agenda, or it's not only a buzzword, but like a lot of people is doing progress on that. And we really want to see change in that, on that area as well, and integrated everywhere. I mean, we live in an environment, right? Like we don't live in a bubble. So it should be also everywhere in all kinds of intervention. Now, Walaa, what is for you the transformational power of evaluation, or how can evaluation transform our world?
Well, yani, for me, I think it has its own transformation power, because evaluation is not just about assessing performance. Yani, it goes beyond that. It's about improvement. It's about accountability. It's about learning. So I believe leveraging evaluation as a tool for evidence-based decision-making, we can drive the change and the positive change across all sectors. And also, we can improve the well-being of the different communities through that specific impact that we want to result in these communities. And we can also work towards an equitable and sustainable future for all. And by that, this is I believe this is the transformation that we want to see. So first of all, we need to define what is the transformation that we want to see out of the evaluation. And then we want to see if we are actually going into that and if we are actually achieving that. And I think, again, doing the improvement in the different sectors, improving the well-being of the community members, working towards more equitable and sustainable future. This is the transformation that we want to see. So, for me, I always see evaluation as a vital tool for maximizing the impact and efficiency in any endeavor. And I can say also for me, evaluation is not a profession. It's not only a profession. I think it's a way to make a very tangible difference in people's life and in the world in general, because we know if resources are allocated efficiently and interventions are truly making difference as it was planned for.
Yeah, thank you, Walaa. And actually, I like it. Evaluation is not only a profession, it's also a way of living, right? Like just looking at every detail, thinking critically about it. And we see so many interesting inputs in the chat already, like Isabella. What is transformational change for her is it's changing what it's called the status quo, but also it allows to bring the traditional people's knowledge and showcase how this actually resonates with harmonic life, respecting biodiversity. And I really like this because we do have to acknowledge the environment we are living in, we're like the customs, the people we're working with, right? Thank you all for sharing your experiences. And Claudia, what is the transformational power of evolution for you?
Well, that's a difficult question, Gabby, but been thinking a lot and hearing a lot about this during this week. So I have a whole bunch of ideas in my head, but I just want to take two. And first is that I am an evaluator, a proud evaluator, because I think it could be truly transformational. I truly think about it, and people sometimes believe I'm a bit naive because I say it out loud everywhere. But I think evaluation can be transformational, and I think it is transformational in two ways. One way is the results of our work, the evidence we provide, and with the evidence we provide, our recommendations. But I do not believe that our recommendations are going to change the world. Please don't take me wrong there. I think we can provide evidence that allow science, research, get closer to those that make the decisions. So I think we have the role to build bridges between people that are understanding phenomena, that are living certain interventions or phenomena, and those that have the power to change things. See, we have to make this connection. We have to speak the truth to power, as a previous AEA conference had. So that's a great way to change things. We just put in the table what should be taken into account to take decisions. We are not aware that decisions will be taken that way, but we put everything needed on the table. So that's one way. And I think what Jane was saying about the importance of considering environmental sustainability, equity, inclusion, and those aspects in that space for decision making is the most key contribution that we as evaluators can do. At least that's what I challenge myself always to do, to provide the evidence to take responsible, coherent, and well-sustained decisions. And the other way that I think it's very, very, very important is what I've seen most in my own practice is how the evaluation processes can stimulate or boost transformations. And this is very key. I've seen it personally many times, and I invite you, if you haven't, to take a closer look. When we go to the field and we ask people what they think about certain intervention, while you are representing the state, while you're representing an international organization, people feel their views matter. They feel they can make a difference. They feel we care about them, and those that are allocating resources care about their views. And this very simple, a little thing about going to the field, asking people and listening carefully to them makes a huge difference. And I think that's where transformations start. That's just the first seed. But what comes after is the process. For example, when we speak about participatory evaluation or involving people in reference groups or giving them a closer role, you are also telling them that their voice is important and that they should be empowered in order to demand more evaluation, to demand decisions to be taken based in evidence. And this empowerment about that participation brings, that knowledge brings, that being aware of processes brings, I think it's the seed that will move us towards transformation. Like our power to stimulate or to just probably to make visible the eager that people have to participate in decision making. That's all on my side, Gabby.
Thank you, Claudia. And I was just like reflecting already, like this importance. It's really important what you just mentioned in general, like about this power of transformation and what it really means. And now I would like actually to ask you to reflect. You've mentioned already like this transformation and what do we need for how can evaluation help us to make these transformations. And I would like to ask you, as this is space also to welcome young and emerging evaluators, if you can recall an experience of evaluation you've worked with young and emerging evaluators and what has been the importance of working intergenerationally. How can this intergenerational perspective can actually help us to achieve these transformations we want? Claudia, I see your mic is still open, so let's use it. Thank you.
Well, I have tons of experiences regarding that, Gabby. So I would just bring a general view and then an example. I always work with young and emerging evaluators because I think they have two things that life takes us to like go get ready of them while years pass by. One of them is curiosity. And curiosity regarding the need to understand things and to admit that you do not know and you want to know more about it. So you can approach different people and different resources to understand this. After, when you start considering yourself an expert and increasingly your expertise and your own views, your ego takes you a little bit farther behind of thinking about, you know, I might not know anything about this and I just wanted to learn from scratch, which I think it's very valuable. And the second part, it's the passion. I think I'm very passionate about evaluation, but every time I undertake a different evaluation, my curiosity and my passion to understand, to go to the field, might be lower because my energy is lower. So it's always great to have someone there, to have a team that says, why don't we look at this in a different way? Someone that would just, if we're trying to understand this, they would turn it around and say, you know, why don't we look at it from here? Why don't we understand that? So that is the first thing that is very key to me. And within that, young and emerging evaluators often bring a new set of tools that allow us to look at things, not only the point of view, but also how, what tools would we use? Artificial intelligence, for example, different methods, geographically located strategies. I don't know, that many things that I could bring tons of examples here of how we've done it. But it's basically this, and I would just like to add one small thing so I can pass the microphone to my colleagues, is that I have even invited people that are not evaluators to participate in evaluation teams, like people from communities, or to be part of an evaluation team and think about this. And this same phenomenon about curiosity, about trying to understand, about fresh ideas and passion, always emerge in those spaces. So I think it's a great way to invite people with different perspectives, different experiences, and different expectations from the evaluation to be part of your team.
Thank
That's
you,
all
Claudia.
I had, Gabby.
Thank you. Walaa, can you share some experience with us?
Yeah, so I go to your original question about examples of evaluations that have made difference. Yani, Gabi, I can say that almost all evaluations have made difference, because the journey of evaluation doesn't stop on publishing a report and just sharing it with the stakeholders. Yani, what we usually do is that we do dissemination, and we develop a training matrix where we identify the lessons learned, the recommendations, we identify roles and responsibilities, and we determine the time frame in order to make the reflections, whether on the same program or on similar programs. I think in that way, we ensure that the evaluation will make difference and will have significant difference on improving the way that we implement our interventions, and also on reaching to more impactful interventions. One of the evaluations that we conducted, we actually built a whole new program based on the results that came out of that evaluation. For example, we assessed and we evaluated the capacities of the different organizations, institutions, and individuals in Jordan when it comes to monitoring, evaluation, and learning skills and experiences. And based on the results, we received funding in order to build these capacities in the form of mill community of practice. And also another example, when we evaluated one of our livelihood projects, we came across an unintended outcome, which was improving the social cohesion in the targeted communities. And as a result of this outcome, improving the social cohesion became a strategic outcome in the organizational theory of change of that organization. And they started building their programs and their projects in order to achieve that as a strategic objectives. And also the monitoring tools were adopted in order to measure the progress towards achieving that objective. These two examples were, was transformational for the different organizations because of the evaluation and the results that came out of the evaluations that we've conducted.
Thank you, Walaa. And I don't know if you've heard of your experiences, but sometimes people is like, oh, evaluation, it's just the final evaluation report. But like, yeah, and sometimes you just stuck into the library or something. But like, to me, that's also part of the evaluation or evaluative advocacy power or job of evaluators. It's like sharing that the results are not only for the report, but also how can we convince people and how can we tell them, transmit the message we want to achieve, right? How can we actually tell them, this is what our view, and like, yeah, we would like to share this, like not for the sake of only a report, but actually to make a change within what we've seen. And Jane, can you share an experience with us about like the power of transformation, or if you work with Young and Emerging Evaluators?
Yeah, we had some fun a while back working with some young and emerging evaluators on an evaluation that my colleague Tomas Sianka and I were doing in of an initiative based in Amsterdam called Fashion for Good, which is a it's like an incubator for fashion industry startups to create sustainable materials and also to encourage more equitable supply chains, you know, so less exploitation of people and the planet through fashion. So it was really interesting. And one component of that was that there's a Fashion for Good museum, and we were evaluating this in the middle of the pandemic, and the museum had to go completely virtual. So I was able to find some really great young evaluators who had actually specialized in museum evaluation. Of course, because they were young whippersnappers, they were also very savvy with the virtual world and how to run that. And so like that, you know, they were able to bring just some really cool insights and ideas that we were able to bring into this evaluation that were just so timely for an organization that was having to pivot to something totally different in the middle of a pandemic. So it really played to their strengths, and it was a lot of fun to do. So that kind of, you know, when I look back at where was evaluation when I jumped into it, and where is it now? Like when I first set up the interdisciplinary PhD in evaluation at Western Michigan University, one of the things I had to do was a sort of scan of what's out there in the way of graduate education. 95% of the doctorates that had any kind of evaluation concentration were in education, psychology, or educational psychology. It was crazy narrow. Like, so if you wanted to do you know, a PhD in evaluation and specialize in international development or the fashion industry or sustainability, or like, you know, there just wasn't a space for you. So one of the big changes over the years that I have seen is this massive diversification of the kinds of disciplines that people are coming from. And so every new generation of evaluators is just like, it's 100 times more diverse. And the thing that I love too is it's like more geographically diverse as well as disciplinary diverse, you know, and as well as, you know, different cultures and ethnicities and gender identities are coming into this. And we're getting so many different amazing perspectives coming out of lots of different spaces. So I think, you know, in terms of like how intergenerational evaluation can be most powerful is, you know, when you're a more seasoned evaluator, you've kind of got this, I don't know, we don't care too much about upsetting people anymore. So we could like barge into some spaces, create some space for some of these new ideas where, you know, when you're a young and emerging evaluator, it's difficult to negotiate for that because you don't have a lot of power in the system. So I think there's a great kind of partnership there. And in terms of like creating that transformation, like one of the things that's been really salient to me in recent years is that one of the more powerful ways to influence transformation is to actually jump away from this focus on instrumental use, where we do an evaluation, we write a report, there's 150 recommendations, and then there's this formal management response, which is quite honestly usually a massive snooze fest where, you know, and sometimes it's very sort of ritualistic. They're just saying some words that make it sound like they're responding to things, but they're not really doing it. And one of the things that particularly in the footprint evaluation space that we've realized is that one of our most important things we need to do as evaluators is focus on conceptual use. So you think about equity and sustainability, the kinds of things that are really powerful here is when we flick on light bulbs for decision makers, and we give them insights that they will never be able to unsee again. And that doesn't just help them fix the current initiative that they're overseeing. It means the next time they go into designing a policy or a program, they're like, they've got this in their head and going, heck, we better not miss out on that. Like, you know, let's make sure we get that right. So really that focus on, look at your evaluation project, think, what are the most important light bulbs I can switch on here? Pick 2 or 3 big things that you really want them to pay attention to and go for gold on that. Don't get bogged down in 150 recommendations. I mean, if you've got to do it, you've got to do that. But like, think about what are your 2 or 3 big things that you really want them to get. Write that short, snappy executive summary. You know, get your to have your findings as more of a conversation than a report. Think about ways that people are really going to get this and never forget it ever again.
Wow, thank you, Jane. Like, this was great to me. Like, you just mentioned some things I never heard, and it's just amazing. Like, all of these different roles, different perspectives, and like, I want to get more like deeper into that now after the webinar. But thank you. And I think like to me, what I take out for this, and also from my experience with Young and Emerging Evaluators, is it's basically an invitation for Young and Emerging Evaluators to speak out. So don't ever think like your experiences do not matter, because like all experiences are valuable. It doesn't really like, it doesn't matter where you're from or what kind of background you have, like all the experiences matter in the context. And like for the more seasoned evaluators, I would say be open also, as Jane mentioned, like sometimes we just don't like, we're more open and we're more flexible and we have a little more power, but we should also be more open to listen to new ideas, right? I always like to say that when like it's an invitation also for more seasoned evaluators, be that mentor or be that person who opens the door that you wanted to be open. Like, position yourself as a young and emerging evaluators. How would you like to be get involved into evaluation? Be a person that supports that for someone else. So we can, if we care about evaluation, we should nurture that, and we should nurture future generations. So like evaluation stays. And I'm gonna pass the mic to my colleague Anna.
Yes, thank you so much. It was very interesting hearing your perspective and about your experiences. And now we would like to open the space also for the audience to ask questions. I already saw one question in the chat by Arati, sorry. And if you would like to, you could also raise your hands and share your comment directly. It would be nice to hear also some voices from the audience. So Arati, would you like to ask your question directly?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a graduate student and currently in my first year of my PhD at University of Florida. And I have been working in evaluation for a little while, and I wonder about the use of appreciative inquiry in evaluation. So it is often said that we need to appreciate what is there in the community and use an appreciative framework while we evaluate. And when we talk about the ethics of an evaluator, it says that we need to be neutral and unbiased. So I would love to hear your insights on using appreciative inquiry in evaluation.
Yes, maybe Claudia, would you like to start to respond to that question? Yeah, I assumed you have many thoughts on that.
I'd love to. I think this is controversial, so it's good to, Arati, because there will be lots of debates about it. First thing is that an evaluate from my perspective and the schools and the approaches that I use to evaluation, an evaluator can never be neutral. I have my positioning. I have my interests in the in the important things regarding realization of human rights, environmental sustainability. So I want to contribute to transformational change. And that's where I situate when I start doing an evaluation. This is me, Claudia Olavarría. And I consider myself as a feminist evaluator. So there's also some of that. I've learned this in an evaluation that I'm doing now, actually. I just went to the field 3 weeks ago. The appreciative inquiry can make a real difference in working with potential resistance of organizations and teams to an evaluation process. So for me, it has been very, very, very helpful to approach the organization and its work, starting by valuing and appreciating the work that they do. That sets a different tone for the process. It allows you to set this tone in which we're all thinking about learning, doing our work better, by highlighting or even spotlighting things that they're doing good. And after we have that conversation about how great things have been done, what learnings have, and what differences or potential impacts there will be, we naturally will go to things that have to be done in a different way and to recommendations, but it would be, at least to me, it is very, very useful to use it, especially when you go to the field, especially when people are afraid of evaluations, when they think they might lose their job or the resources that are located for the program because of the evaluation process. To start using appreciative inquiry it's a great thing. At least it has worked very well for me. And this is a different style. I think there's a generational also break here, because more seasoned evaluators or more experienced evaluators, or maybe some style of evaluators, I don't want to be prejudiced on this, have a more serious, more auditing attitude, and that could be scary for some people. So at least in my practice, it's a great thing to use. So please try to think about and question all this about neutrality and rigor. There are lots of interesting conversations happening around there, and I invite you to take a look at it, because it's very, very interesting to look at things differently and to be sure that the rigor of your evaluation goes on the methodological design and the way you implement it on the field, more than what approach you use or how neutral you would be to what you're evaluating. I hope it helps. Arati, that's all on my side, Anna.
Thank you so
much. Thank you for your perspective. We also would like to invite the other people out of the audience. You're very welcome to share your questions with us rather in the chat, or we really like to hear some voices as well. So please, if you feel to, just raise the hand, and you can interact and be part of this conversation. I don't know if you, Jane, or what. There's also another question. Maybe we can just collect some questions, and then if you would like to respond, to distribute them through the panelists. So Joseph, please go ahead. You're very welcome to share your question.
Okay, thanks very much, Anna and the team. I've really loved evaluation already. But my question is, you've seen a good team with skills and all the knowledge about evaluation. How can local organizations reach out to these people? And again, can we have some tools, evaluation tools that can help organizations, for instance, in Uganda here, where I'm living? I don't know whether it is possible for them to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Walaa, would you like to respond to that question? Maybe.
I hope I got that question very well, but I think Yusuf was asking about tools for evaluation. and if we can share tools for organizations in Uganda to use for evaluations, right? If that was the question and the request, then yeah, of course we can use it, but also you have the tools for evaluation, but it's a general tool, but you need to contextualize it and to suit the context of your country. Of course there are a lot of tools available online, and we can share more tools. And maybe we can get your request more in details and what the exact interventions that you are implementing to support you in developing the tools relevant to your interventions.
Okay.
Okay, and we already have another person who would like to ask something. Celestine, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the presentation and for sharing your experiences. So as I would say expertise in the field, do you mind sharing some of the challenges that you've faced as evaluators? And this may be like overall challenges, let's say with, following up on the recommendations, or just overall challenges that you faced, and how best you think as the emerging evaluators can learn from, and yeah, the key takeaways. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Maybe Jane, you could respond to that, or maybe challenges you have observed young emerging evaluators facing when they were starting their career or something.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to put in a plug for like a really great book that is not expensive and has so many, and it's not my book, but there's a colleague of ours in Canada, Kylie Hutchinson, put together this edited little smallish book called Evaluation Failures. And I did a chapter in it, and a bunch of other people did. And these were stories from our early career of stuff that went wrong, how we dealt with it, what we do now to avoid that. And I think mine was something along a scope creep nightmare. So how, I was in the middle of a very long-term evaluation, and it was for central government, and there was an administration change. So there was an election and the government changed, and there were 3 different CEOs went through the organization. Each time a CEO came in, they rearranged the organization, changed the strategic priorities, and then that impacted what I was trying to do with my evaluation. And it was just a massive, budget timeline blowout, and I ended up just having to eat that. It was so bad. But anyway, I encourage you to, I'll find the link and put it in the chat in a minute. But I also do you mind if I just comment on the appreciative inquiry thing? Because I just thought that was such an interesting question, because I had so many arguments with the older generation of evaluated, Michael Scriven, Dan Stufflebeam, and others about this. They were like, oh, that appreciative inquiry stuff is biased. It is not biased. This is like, they had it wrong. So one part of it is in traditional evaluation, we'd do a needs assessment, and then we'd look at like how well did the program or whatever respond to the needs. If you're smart, you do a strengths and needs assessment to understand a good program or policy should build on the strengths and address the needs. So appreciative inquiry is about uncovering those strengths and not just taking a deficit thing. But another kind of interesting conversation I had a few years ago with a colleague of mine, Pale Sauni, who's based in New Zealand but Samoan, and he said, it's actually sort of in different cultural spaces, appreciative inquiry is actually the only way that you are going to get to the truth. Because as part of most Pacific Island cultures, it is considered extremely rude to criticize what is in existence. And so asking people to talk about the weaknesses or the problems with something, they're just not going to give you the information. But if you say, talk about what's good about it, And then this is where appreciative inquiry gets at what's wrong with it. It says, what would it look like if it was even better than what you're seeing today? So it's just like a really nicer way to talk about the potential to improve something without framing it as problems. So actually appreciative inquiry can help you uncover the truth much better in a lot of spaces without, as Claudia said, that resistance that you get when you take a deficit and problem frame on the way that you're questioning things. So Arati, great question, and I encourage you to rip into that appreciative inquiry and don't let anyone tell you it's biased because they're wrong.
Okay, thank you, Jane, so much.
I'm
So we are almost running out of time. So we have one last question in the chat, and I would like to answer it. I'd like to all the three of you to have like a final words, maybe. So I would like to answer you maybe in 1 minute each. Where shall I start this long journey? The first step towards being an evaluator. What do you recommend on these steps? So Jane, if you would like to just one quick final words on that, and then we will pass them over to Claudia and also Walaa. That would be nice.
Well, thing. I mean, one of the great things I love about evaluation is no matter what you study, everything is going to end up being relevant at some point. I mean, you should see my transcript from undergrad. It's just a complete mess of everything. I look like a totally unfocused person, but every single thing I ever studied in my life has ended up being relevant at some point. So follow what's interesting to you, what you love, what you're good at. Follow the people who seem to be saying interesting things. Find your own voice and just, have some fun with it. Like if you follow what's fun and what you're good at, you can't go wrong. There's lots of different resources there. Like, better evaluation is a great place to start, but there's lots of great ways to tap into all kinds of things. So yeah, go for it.
Thank you. If you would go on, Walaa, please.
Sure, yeah, but Anna, I want to go back just briefly about the question about the challenges that we face as evaluators. And I think most of the time there is resistance to accept the recommendations from the evaluator. They perceive it as criticism, but the key for that is the participatory approach, which creates the feeling of ownership among all stakeholders to adopt the recommendations. And also, I still recall that moment when I used to introduce myself as an evaluator. I was seeing that look of surprise telling me, you're so young for that. But this never stopped me, actually. On the contrary, I was perceiving this as a compliment that I'm still young, but I can do a lot. So, and in general, in evaluations, I can say that every challenge and every setback has taught me a lesson and has shaped my growth as evaluator. So just, you need to be passionate about evaluation. You need to perceive every comment as a compliment, not as a criticism as an evaluator.
Okay, thank you. And then Claudia.
Yes.
How to start?
I think you have to train yourself, learn, but not only learn in university, go to the field, look at things, read evaluation reports, read this book that Jane was recommending about failures, because that's what learning is. But my advice would be to be creative, be flexible, be curious always, and overall be a good listener. That's what I think I'm good at, and that's why I'm an evaluator, because I'm a good listener. And you learn a lot there, and then you can evaluate much better if you do so.
Okay. Yeah, please, yeah, go.
Joining professional networks like EvalYouth and EvalJordan is a key factor in order to enter to the evaluation world successfully for young emerging evaluators and to equip themselves with the skills and knowledge needed.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I know there are so many ideas. Claudia, you already had another idea you wanted to share?
No, I just wanted to build on what Walaa was
Okay.
saying. To build community to share and learn, it's very key. So gLOCAL is in a space, but all the year around, EvalYouth is a great space to do that. Communities of practice, conferences, and all the spaces in which people openly share what they're doing good and also what they're doing not so good are a great way to go.
Yes.
That's all.
No, thank you so much. You're so right. And yes, I wanted to thank you. It was very, very interesting hearing your perspective, but also your experiences. And being a young emerging evaluator, I think we need more spaces like this where we share, where we learn from each other, where we have an honest and open discussion on that, so we can empower and be inspired to go into the field. And after, maybe Gaby, you want to show some thoughts as well. Afterwards, we would like to share some key resources as well that might help you to start into the field. So, but please, Gaby, if you want to, or if you're fine, however, but yeah, I want to give you the
just
chance.
very quickly. Just very quickly, as our panelists have shared, like join networks, EvalYouth, we have like we are transitioning, we will have a new management group, and so I guess like we are always welcoming volunteers. Send us an email to evalyouth@gmail.com. And also we have the Youth Innovation Week coming, that it's a week also of events for and by Young and Emerging Evaluators. You can join us there, join networks, go to conferences, listen to a lot of YouTube videos there are, and you can share and learn from other audiences. And yeah, maybe we go on the resources, Anna.
Yes, because this is all where you can find a lot of information on that. So Alice, if you could share our lovely slices. It's a small
Yes.
PowerPoint that can help to illustrate. So we have been working together on this landing page with EvalYouth, P2P, Plus, and GEI. So with this landing page, we want to give career advice for young emerging evaluators. So the idea is to share answers to all the questions you have when you are about to start your career. So we want to show how could a career look like, what are skills, what are that you need maybe, yes, so you can find a lot of answers there. So this is a beta version. So Alice, if you go to the next slide, we will be very happy if you have a look at this landing page, which is launched today, so very new. And if you have a feedback, please feel free to share your feedback to help us improve this page so it's suited to your needs, right? Another project we want to share with you. Oh, Alice, yeah, please go ahead.
I just wanted to add that this content is in development. We'll be drawing on the discussion from this webinar and other sources, but also we've got a really large cohort of young and emerging evaluators in this webinar. If you know good resources, if you want to write a blog, if you want to ask questions, please get in touch. We'd love to have more contributors to better evaluation in general, but also this project. And Gaby.
Yes, and we're really excited about this landing page because it's full of resources and all the things that young and emerging evaluators are looking for. But we also, as Alice mentioned, we want your input. It's something that we work collaboratively. If you want to work a blog on some of the topics that we're going to present, please do so and share your experience also with the world.
Yes, thank you so much. And we also want to make a little bit promo about this internship program we are having with GEI. So we are about to start the next round of interns. So if you're interested to have a practical experience in the GEI network, which means the CLEAR centers mainly around the world and Global South, and you're graduated and from Global South, please have a look at the CLEAR Center pages. Alice, could you go to the next slide, please? Check the CLEAR Center. They are those who are going to announce the applications and when they are popping up new job opportunities. So in July, August, we are starting this process. And this is about the hands-on learning program. And Alice,
I can
go.
speak to this one. Yep. So just a final plug about the footprint evaluation project, which Jane is involved with, and I'm involved with as well. If you are looking to help change the world and want to work on environmental evaluation and equity, we really encourage you to join the Footprint community of practice. There's a thematic page on better evaluation. We'll send the link into post-webinar email as well. But it's a really great way to help build that network and get involved in some of these research projects that are going on.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if Jane, you want to add something or to the footprint side?
Yeah, there's more stuff coming off the line the whole time. We're really excited to have some of the resources are being translated into other languages. If there are any of you who are interested in working on a translation into yet another language, I think Better Evaluation just loves having resources available in multiple different languages. It just adds so much powerful to how much these can be used. And also it's a great learning experience for whoever's doing the translation to be working with us to make sure you're understanding the material. So it's kind of like a free learning opportunity along with an opportunity to contribute to changing the world.
Thank you so much. So, Gabi, you have also something to share, right?
Yes, I just shared with all of you in the chat the links to the Better Evaluation website, to the Evaluation Career Guide, to the hands-on internship program, and to the Youth in Evaluation Week I just shared. It's there, but you can also contact us.
Okay, so thank you so much for all of you for being in this event. Thank you to our panelists, Jane, Claudia, Walaa. It was very interesting listening to you. Thank you, Gabi, for moderating this. And of course, thank you to Alice and all the communication team that has made this event possible and had put so much effort into this. Rossetti, Simon, it was a pleasure. And thank you so much. And we are looking forward for your feedback to this event. So please feel free to give us a feedback through this QR code or this link.
And thanks to you also, Anna, for the moderation. Thank you all for joining us.